I ran into the manager who fired me out of personal feelings for the first time in months. Thinking it was a coincidence, he sneered and said,
Today, I'm negotiating a $10 million deal. What about you?
Knowing that this encounter was not a coincidence, I replied firmly, I'm here to discuss stopping our business with your company. The manager gradually began to realize he was in trouble. My name is Kyle. I currently work in sales at a factory. I absolutely love the faint smell of oil that lingers throughout the company whenever I go to work. Or maybe it's the scent of machinery soaked into my work clothes. The company I work for mainly manufactures engines for airplanes and ships. I used to work in sales for a company that made car parts. But one day, my childhood fascination with big things suddenly awakened from a long sleep. What stirred up the boy inside me was my then middle school daughter, Lindsay.
Pilots are so cool, aren't they?
She suddenly said out of the blue.
What's up with that, all of a sudden?
Yesterday, I watched a foreign movie with Mary. It was just so cool. And then I started thinking, isn't it amazing how such big things can fly? We got so excited talking about it. I might marry a pilot someday.
I barely had time to respond before Lindsay showed me the movie brochure she bought with her allowance. I took it casually and was immediately drawn to the cover. A silver plane was floating against a bright blue sky, with a handsome Western pilot giving a thumbs up through the polycarbonate cockpit window. Lindsay was smitten with a Hollywood actor, but I was captivated by the plane he was piloting. It reminded me of my childhood days when I used to gaze up at the sky, tracing airplane trails with my finger and eagerly following the small planes. My wife, of course, was exasperated, but I quit my job at the car factory in my late 30s, searched for a company involved in aircraft manufacturing, and somehow got hired by my current company. It's been 5 years since I started working here. I am now 44, and my daughter, who was in middle school, is now a college student. My wife, who was initially full of exasperation and anxiety, now supports me devotedly. Since I'm in the same sales position as before, I could leverage my past experience, making every day at work enjoyable. I particularly enjoy the occasional in-house study sessions. Unlike my previous job, I get to learn about the structure of aircraft and ship engines. This felt more like a hobby than a job to me. Listening to this, everything might seem smooth and successful, but that's not entirely the case.
Hey, Kyle.
The root of all problems lay with my boss, George, the manager. It was probably due to years of drinking and smoking, but every time he called my name in his distinctive raspy voice, I flinched. But if I kept him waiting, it would lead to more trouble. So I quickly ran to his desk. George, what is it?
Geez, you're still slow as ever.
I'm sorry.
Tisk.
George tossed some papers onto the desk. I glimpsed the text and saw it was a complaint.
You got some harsh complaints addressed to you. Summarize the causes and countermeasures in a report. By the end of today.
By the end of today?
What? Got a problem with that?
No. I took the stack of complaints back to my desk. When I checked the sources, they were all George's responsibility. But this was a common occurrence, so I had stopped paying much attention. Previously, when something similar happened, I protested that it wasn't my responsibility. George, unbothered, said,
I delegated it to you, so it's your responsibility.
When did you delegate it to me?
Now. Right now.
How could such malicious tyranny be allowed? Of course, it couldn't be. But there was a reason I kept enduring the blatant harassment. George is the president's relative. Every time something happened, he'd say, I'm the president's kin. And no one could say a word. George was promoted to manager a few years ago, and that's when this outrageous reign of terror began. Maybe he got carried away with his promotion. He intimidated those who didn't know to the extent that some quit because of it. I never knew when my turn would come.
Hey, Kyle.
George's shout echoed through the office again, and I hurried to his desk, exasperated.
We've got a meeting at 5 p.m. today. Get the materials ready.
What? From now? There's only an hour left.
You can do it in an hour. Just get it done.
This wasn't the first time he suddenly scheduled a meeting, and he always dumped the annoying tasks on me. In this factory, we handle custom orders, so each project requires meticulous planning. It's not just the sales department, it involves various other departments, and sometimes these projects are vital to the company's future. George always puts his name as the project leader, but he dumps all the work on me and others. The president, unaware, only sees the results and praises George, creating a terrible cycle. I sighed and started preparing the materials for the meeting. One day, while these monotonous days continued, something happened.
Hey, Kyle.
George's voice was even harsher than usual, and I quickly ran to his desk, trying to calm my trembling body. George's face was red as he shouted,
What's going on? We got a call saying the goods haven't been delivered to the client.
"What? But the due date isn't today."
Don't give me excuses. Go apologize right now.
I was flustered but quickly prepared and jumped into the company car. Delivery dates can vary greatly depending on parts orders and factory schedules, so I always set them carefully. Before getting out of the car, I checked the documents I had prepared. The due date was indeed a week away, but the complaint call was real. When I apologized to the client's representative, he looked extremely displeased.
We know we made an unreasonable request, but you accepted it, so you need to keep your promise. If you can't, you should have said so. Now we're in trouble. We can't wait a week. We'll have to ask another factory.
I have no excuse. I'm terribly sorry. After sincerely apologizing, I hesitantly asked, to prevent this from happening again, I'd like to review the process. The initial due date was a week away, right?
Yes, because you said it couldn't be done sooner, we agreed. But my boss asked me to try again, so I called a month ago. When I called, it wasn't you, but someone else said it could be done a week earlier.
What? I had a bad feeling. Was the person who took the call a man named George? The representative nodded easily.
Yes, that's right, George. I made sure to tell him to inform you. But you really didn't know? That's unheard of. Is your company okay?
My mind went blank, and I barely remember how I got back to the office. All I remember is apologizing profusely. When I asked George about it,
What? I'm not going to answer such an important call without thinking.
he dismissed it outright.
I'll make sure to report this to the president. You're always getting complaints, but the damage this time is off the charts. Prepare yourself.
I had no energy left to argue. A few days later, the president handed me a termination notice. At least it wasn't a disciplinary dismissal. Holding the notice, I took my remaining paid leave and left the company, feeling bitter despite the pleas from other employees not to go. My wife and daughter, Lindsay, were shocked by the sudden termination, but I didn't go into the details. My wife had tears in her eyes, seeing me lose the job I loved, which pained me. But Lindsay's reaction was different.
Dad, it's not your first job change, right? Just think of it as a step up. It'll make life more exciting.
Her carefree comment, likely because she was still in college and sheltered from the real world, made my wife and me burst into laughter. Lindsay definitely inherited her optimism from me. We laughed together as a family. Besides, it wasn't time to be down yet. If I had been unfairly fired with no prospects, I would have fought to the end for my family. But that wasn't the case, so I accepted the dismissal. Don't worry, you two. I won't just sit back and take it. Seeing my confident smile, Lindsay beamed as if she had expected it. 3 months later, I was heading to work at a new company in a suit. At first, I found myself almost heading towards my former company out of habit. But after 3 months, the new commute became routine, especially today, which was a long-awaited day for me. I felt naturally focused. The meeting was scheduled to start at 10 a.m. I wasn't asked to be there exactly 10 minutes early, but I went outside to greet our business partner. The building, located in the heart of the business district, was surrounded by suited businessmen. Among them, I spotted the person I was waiting for. Our eyes met. Despite hating me so much at the former company, that man, George, widened his eyes in surprise and walked over with a grin.
Hey, long time no see, Kyle.
Yes, long time no see. I'm glad to see you're doing well.
You too.
George looked at me intently and then deepened his grin.
Glad to see you're doing well. But aren't you a bit too old to be job hunting?
I pretended not to understand and ignored his comment. It seems George thinks I'm job hunting.
Oh, by the way, things are going great for me. Today, I'm negotiating a $10 million deal. What about you? Which company are you heading to for an interview?
Facing George's mocking face, I answered firmly, I'm here to discuss stopping our business with your company.
What?
George looked momentarily stunned, then burst into a loud, raspy laugh.
That's a good joke. Is this your revenge?
It's not a joke. I pulled out a business card from my chest pocket. Allow me to introduce myself again. I'm Kyle from Morgan Trading's aircraft division. I took over from Thomas as your point of contact.
What?
George looked at the business card in a daze, exhaling sharply.
No. What? What's going on?
We already informed you by email that Thomas had resigned. I also sent you an email.
But I never expected that Kyle would be you.
George still seemed confused. Well, standing and talking here isn't ideal. Please come inside. I used my ID hanging around my neck to enter the building easily, unlocked the conference room, and invited him in. George finally seemed to realize his situation. The redness drained from his face.
Why are you? How come?
Do you remember an employee named Brian, whom you pressured to quit? I started talking slowly. He was young but talented. I was in a mentoring position to him, so I knew him well. Brian overcame the emotional wounds you inflicted and joined Morgan Trading.
Brian.
And Brian is a loyal man. He was concerned that my achievements always went to you and had been suggesting I apply to Morgan Trading for a while. Though, as a newcomer, he didn't have the authority to recruit me. It was more of a friendly suggestion. George remained silent, his face pale. Upon closer inspection, his lips were trembling nervously. When I told Brian about my unfair dismissal, he immediately spoke to his superior. Thanks to him, I was able to join Morgan Trading more easily than if I had gone through regular job hunting. Despite the hardships George caused, I liked my previous job and was grateful for the in-house study sessions. They helped me gain deep knowledge, which, along with my sales experience, got me a position in Morgan Trading's aircraft division. As a mid-career hire, I was expected to be an immediate asset, and I've already closed several deals, pleasing the clients. Today's negotiation was about a custom-made private aircraft for a wealthy client. The order was entirely custom, making the price significantly higher. But unfortunately, with you as the representative, agreeing to our proposed delivery date only to later claim no such promise was made won't work. This is a substantial deal, and sorry won't cut it. George, his face drained of blood, pleaded desperately, his voice trembling.
The previous issue was just a misunderstanding. I'm sorry, but this time, I'll change the representative. As long as it's not me, right?
No, I know you'll interfere with matters even if you're not the main contact and make promises you can't keep. George's face twisted in anger.
Damn, are you trying to get revenge on me?
What are you talking about? This is business. George's harsh voice, which once made me shrink, no longer affects me. Now that we're on equal footing, I have no reason to fear him anymore. I spoke calmly. I never mix personal feelings with work. My top priority is our clients. To ensure their complete satisfaction, I can't rely on a company with people who do sloppy work. I have a lot of respect for your company, so this was a tough decision. Being impartial means having a stricter eye. Normally, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to handle transactions with my former company. This was truly a coincidence. I was chosen to fill in for the previous representative who had to resign suddenly due to family issues. As I was a newcomer with fewer projects, it wasn't about personal grudges. I just want to do good work. George bit his lip in frustration. He was probably racking his brain, trying to figure out what to say to make me back down. But I had one more card to play. I played my last card. And George, you're embezzling, aren't you? George's eyes widened, and his face shifted from anger to panic. He's a simple man to read.
Embezzling? That's a baseless accusation.
You've been taking home appliances bought as company supplies, right? Since the amounts weren't large, you had the authority to approve them as the manager. Everyone knows. They just haven't said anything. George's embezzlement was well known in our department. He was the only one who thought it was a secret. George's behavior, which tends to attract attention for all the wrong reasons, was observed by more people than anticipated. Unfortunately, I'm now an outsider, but I made sure to tell your president.
What? You told the president?
I had informed the president just yesterday. For the president who has full faith in George, he might mistakenly attribute the breakdown of this deal to my personal grudge. Moreover, fearing exposure of his own incompetence, George, out of personal vendetta for being fired, might falsely report to the president that I intentionally sabotaged this deal. To avoid that, I took the initiative. I introduced myself as the new representative for this significant deal and assured him that I wouldn't let personal feelings interfere. I also reported all of George's misconduct, including harassment. Just one more thing to add. I'm fully aware of your company's precision work, but we want to place orders with a company that can stay as clean as possible for the client's sake. So, not just me, but the whole team will discuss our future dealings with you. I believe the president, who blindly trusted George and ignored his wrongdoings, shares some of the blame. However, he promised a thorough investigation. Depending on his actions, resuming our business relationship isn't off the table. For that, the rot needs to be removed. George was completely deflated. He looked like he wanted to yell at me, as usual. His clenched fists on his knees were trembling. But George is no longer in a position to yell at me. He created this situation himself. That concludes our discussion. I ended the conversation without showing any emotion and stood up. I also gestured for George to leave. Gone was his earlier bravado. and his back seemed shrunken and small as he walked away. Later, a former colleague informed me that George had been disciplined. The president conducted a thorough investigation as he promised. Various misdeeds that I wasn't even aware of came to light. George is currently suspended until the investigation is complete. But once all his wrongdoings are fully revealed, he will likely be officially dismissed. One thing that concerned me was whether the serious employees resented me for ruining a significant deal. But my former colleague assured me otherwise.
I can't speak for other departments, but everyone in sales is saying, well done to you. Thanks, man.
Business is not about personal grudges, but I can't deny that it felt satisfying. Now, at Morgan Trading, I'm experiencing things I never could at my previous company. Since we deal with aircraft, each deal involves substantial amounts of money. Of course, this comes with significant pressure, but the joy of closing a deal outweighs the pressure. Also, since changing jobs, the atmosphere at home has brightened.
I can't afford to lose yet.
My wife said, throwing herself into housework. And Lindsay goes to college every day with enthusiasm. Lindsay is attending a certain foreign language university.
I'll study hard and become a flight attendant.
Lindsay declared, her face glowing with determination. It won't be long before we can talk about airplanes together. She might even marry a pilot. With that hope for the future, I head to work today.